Wait, who the fuck is this? Twitch just unbanned a streamer who was previously banned for promoting war and hate speech.
Altavoz mucho.
Okay. True.
My daughter's turning 18 tomorrow. No way. And guess how tall she is? 5'10". Hey, let me see a picture. Isn't she beautiful? She has your eyes. No, she's beautiful. She's a nice girl. Say she's beautiful. All right, this is ridiculous. No, I don't think it is. I want you to say it. Okay, just give me a second, okay? No, say it right now. No hablo inglés. Di que mi hija es muy bonita. Shit. Say it! Say it, Tom! Say it! Tell me! Okay, she's beautiful. She's beautiful. You happy? Tom, she's not 18. She lives on the West Coast. You're right. She does live on the West Coast. I'm sorry. With her biological family. Impossible. You're under arrest for the kidnapping of Gabriela Montoya Garcia Cortez. My daughter's turning 18 tomorrow. And guess how tall she is? 5'10". She lives on the West Coast. It all lined up too perfectly. Birthday, picture, height. You fell right into my hands. You're the best detective I've ever seen. You're damn right I am. And one more thing. I would tear her ass up. Cool.
Why the fuck is autoplay on? Bros, I looked up the Rotten Tomatoes ratings on these movies because I think Creed 1 was one of the best Rocky movies, okay? Stay mad. I thought Creed 2 it was okay. Not horrible. And then this Creed 3 movie had really good ratings. And I watched this movie. This movie was not good. I don't know why this one got such great ratings. This was like a super meh movie. Bleh. Jesus. I don't know why I put 2. Whoops. 89% and 95%. This movie was so meh. Creed 3 literally has worse ratings than 2 or 1 on Letterboxd. Oh, well, on Rotten Tomatoes, it got way higher. Do you always watch movies while doing something else, or does it have your full attention? It depends on the movie that I'm watching. Creed 3 was a background movie. I watched Eddington though, which that was my full attention movie. I thought Eddington was okay. Although I don't know if I fully understood it, but Creed 2 was the bad one. It was basically a Rocky movie. Creed 3 at least was about Creed, and the fight scene was good. Was it though? Like, what was I feel like in the training montage part of any like shonen anime or in any movie that's about like fighting something, you're supposed to learn something that you didn't know before, and then that's what helps you like ascend in the finale to defeat whatever you couldn't defeat before. What did he learn in Creed 3? Like, it feels like it was just he just ran around a mountain a little bit and got, I guess, a little stronger or something, and then beat up the old dude. Also, I feel like they tried to, I usually say it was an anime, but they tried to power scale the bad guy in Creed 3 like way too quickly, right? This guy went from literally being in jail for 18 years to, he was like the heavyweight champion of the world in 2 months, and then was fighting the guy, fighting Creed. I don't know, it just seemed like way too much. Oh! Also, also wait real quick. And then one quick thing. I didn't understand this at all. And maybe it was because I was watching this in the background. There's a part where his mom shows him like a picture of him and some other dudes. And he's like, oh my God, you set me up the whole time. Who is this guy? Am I supposed to know this guy? But was I just not paying close enough attention? Who the fuck is this person? We can't see it, Destiny? Wait. Oh my God, is there like some DVR protection thing on my computer? Or DRM? Holy based. Oh my God. How does that even work? DRM goes through NDI? It's the guy who broke the Russian boxer's hand. Oh, is it? Oh, okay. And they were what, like friends in jail? Oh! Because if he broke the guy's hand, that's what allowed this guy to make the big championship fight and let him, that seems like a huge scheme though, no? You can't take screenshots as well, it will oh, I don't care. Whatever, I don't care. My thing was solved. Oh no, because when I go to take screenshots, it literally turns black. It was a setup from the start. Okay. Well, that's kind of an unbelievable setup, no? Like the guy literally, he's like, listen, if you break this dude's hand, then I'm sure they'll allow me, an old as fuck guy with no boxing history, to fight in the world champ fight. That seems kind of weird. I don't know, maybe. When are you done with your Invisalign inserts? I've been done with this for like over a year. I just use the retainers now. Yeah, I see everybody saying hardware acceleration. It's not, I don't care that much. Did you install the 5090 yet? No, I've got that on my PSU down here. We'll do it off stream tonight. Okay, who is this? Because I was very active in DGG 10 plus years ago. It quickly turned from memes to bullying, hate brigading, etc. Most notable one was the amount of engagement they had in this sub to laugh at Reckful during his episode, which led to his suicide. What? Did LSF exist as a sub 10 years ago? When was this sub created? Can I find out? It's on the sidebar. First, there was r/livestreamfails. I don't know. Okay. So Twitch decided it's a good idea to bring back a streamer got banned for justifying terrorism, mocking war crimes, and promoting hostility towards Ukrainians. Ah, there's the problem. No one cares. Why did you get a new PSU? You have a 1,000-watt power supply in your Artesian. Because somebody told me I had an 800 or 750 or something, so then I thought I needed a new one, so fuck me, I guess. But also, it's probably good to get a new one anyway, because one, just to be safe, maybe? I don't know what my current wattage draw is. But two, because I think, don't these guys use, I need the special, isn't it the 12-pin cables now? I want the one that starts on fire, so I can get cooking. Show us the card. It's this giant fucking box. Ugh. Ugh. Whatever the fuck is in here. Ugh. Ugh. Which CPU do you have? Bro, I don't even fucking know anymore. 10900K. I don't know how you say this. 10,900K. quick tip on what actually causes a PC to overheat. I don't know. When it's producing more heat than you can get off of the heat producing parts? What kind of a question is that? Did you put your 3090 in the second PC? No, I don't know. Positive or negative airflow, which is better? I don't think it matters. As long as the air is moving through your box, it's whatever. I'm pretty sure you should probably be somewhat equilibrium anyway, no? Like, it's not like you should be forcing a ton of air in or just moving all of it out, right? You should probably be, I think people usually do intake from the front and maybe the top, and then out the back, or in from the front and then out the top and the back. I don't think it matters much. I don't think any of that matters that much. Make a chorus manifesto. It's actually Aid saying, Taylor, make a victory lap around this shit. I mean, I kind of did. I need to figure out where to, what folder should I put this in? I never know how to organize my shit. Like, I have research. This is for like the long form stuff I do. Where do I put my, I have this one in current events, I guess. But for like the response thing that I did for the H3H3 video, like I wrote up like a whole thing for this. This is what I was reading off on stream with links to all the sources that I had. I don't know. You can make a concise video with your main points with light editing. Sure. I mean, I can just run through this notepad. I'll do it later because we still need, apparently there's more people. Doing memes. Let's call this response videos. Fuck it. Did Taylor turn down the convo or did I miss it? I don't know. She said she was in meetings or something. Sometimes we text. I don't know why. I don't know if she just doesn't follow anything online or if it's like a meme, but we just have like a semi-friendly rapport back and forth in text. But I don't know if she just doesn't know anything. Yeah, I have no idea. God, you guys got me so hyped last night. I hate you so much. Don't get fooled by her, she'll backstab you? I don't think she will. I gave her a whole bunch of personal and super incriminating information the other day. She hasn't done anything. I'm just kidding. Stop. I don't trust anybody online anymore, okay? And now he's back like nothing happened. Okay. Stop. What do I have open? Oh, that's for that. I might be talking to this guy next month. Francis Fukuyama. I'm trying to set up an in-person interview with him. But supposing the world has become filled up, so to speak, with liberal democracies, such as there exists no tyranny and oppression worthy of the name against which to struggle, experience suggests that if men cannot struggle on behalf of a just cause, because that just cause is victorious in an earlier generation, then they will struggle against the just cause. They will struggle for the sake of struggle. They will struggle, in other words, out of a certain boredom, for they cannot imagine living in a world without struggle. And if the greater part of the world in which they live is characterized by peaceful and prosperous civil democracy, they will struggle against that peace and prosperity and against democracy. Oh, it's like, wait. What's the name of the guy? Not the cartographer. Who's the name of the guy that makes everything, that made the Matrix? Oh, the architect. It's like this meme or whatever, right? Why does he wear this fucking outfit?
Hello, Neo.
Hi.
Who are you? I am the architect. I created the Matrix. I've been waiting for you. You have many questions, and though the process has altered your consciousness, you remain irrevocably human.
Oh, no, wait, you're right. Actually, forget this. Ooh, see? Oh my god. This was the scariest part. They start giving him the mRNA vaccine.
Perfect world, a dream, but your primitives.
And he starts having myocarditis immediately. While upgrading your PC, did you make sure to get 120 gigabytes of DDR5 CL28 RAM so you can have more than 3 code 1? Do I have 32 or 64 gigs of RAM right now? 32. It's probably still plenty, right? Wait. So let's use 2 of 4. Yeah, okay. Oh fuck, we didn't even finish watching this. Okay, let me go through my tabs and we're gonna do news and all this shit.
Snow days. There is no greater human joy than waking up to a winter wonderland that, with its frosty magic, also canceled school. Well, no more, because schools are canceling snow days. Some school systems have decided distance learning has worked so well, might as well keep those tools around. This way, when there's too much snow to physically drag students in, we can still mentally drag them in. What kind of villains are you? The worst kind. The kind doing something for your own good. You don't want students to miss learning, do you? We all agree that each and every individual day of school matters to keep kids from falling behind.
Please upgrade your CPU. A 10900K with a 5090 is diabolical. I don't want to get into it, but I don't believe the whole idea of like a CPU limiting a GPU is I don't think it really works that way. But I'm too lazy to do that right now.
Kind. We don't all agree. This is horrifying. Internet, where are you? Where's hashtag save snow days to protect us? Shh, we don't need that. No, you cannot take away the human experience of being on a dark winter's night, unable to face the next day. Then when thin clouds appear on the horizon, giving you faint hope, you beg with all of your belief to make it happen. And when it does happen, it is the most epic experience of low to high, combining the triple joys of snow and freedom and getting out of something that you totally shouldn't have. There are only so many days of such great glory in a human life. But say some school boards, that number of days will be 0 forever. And I fear this snow day cancellation pestilation will spread because the school system with its bureaucracies and committees loves its checkboxes checked, its percentages maxed, and its attendance punch cards punched. Snow days mess all that up, so the system, wielding the ultimate banality of evil, cancels snow days. Look, I'm just gonna say it. This is a crime against childhood. Yes, I am going to play the won't somebody please think of the children card. Teenagers, I know you hate this, but it's in your best interest to just roll with it. But seriously, protecting snow days is what this card was made to play. Those who want to cancel snow days should be forced to look into the wide, excited eyes of a little girl waking up to experience her very first snow day and tell her, no, you can't play outside. Why? Because it's super important that today, right now, you learn about what a newspaper front page in England 300 years ago thought was important. And you also must know the French conjugation of the verb to have fun. Je m'aime.
Okay. Any update on the whole soda podcast thing? They said they'd have me on whenever, so I'm just waiting for whenever. How can you not believe objective facts? You can look at the stats and see that GPU is often limited by CPU. Link me a video and I'll watch it, okay? Discrepancies with reporting that Trump is alive today. Like the rest of you, I was sad to see the news that Trump was spotted today going golfing. He means he's sad because we want Trump to be working, not golfing, of course. However, there was something off to me about the video they showed. They seemed a little more spry, and the bruising on his hand was absent. I decided to dig a little more into it, and I found this user asking, why is MAGA circulating old videos to prove Trump is golfing today, providing a screenshot? So the video is from weeks ago, possibly months. I dug a little deeper because who knows, maybe that is shopped or something. Why would it be in Russian and have a weird watermark? So I decided to find one of those posts, and here's Gunther Eagleman, prolific MAGA Twitter bot, spreading that same video from June 28th.
Bravo!
Wait, this isn't the video that's being spread today, is it?
Hi, Mr. President.
As soon as I saw news of him today, I just stopped. I didn't even tune in. Wait, Trump spotted golfing today.
Filled with twists and turns.
I actually have, I hate to ruin this for you guys so much, but there is a very easy way to tell if the president is dead or not. I think, in my opinion, and if you don't see it, I don't believe that it's actually happening. Oh, this is an ad. Fuck! Do you mean like a good enough CPU will not be bottlenecked from a high-end GPU because a task CPU has to finish? It first is minuscule in comparison. This is my understanding. I'll watch a video because people are link videos, but my understanding is, so CPUs have to do things in they make calculations about, let me think. I don't know underlying software, hardware, architecture, whatever. But let's say that you're walking through a scene. Okay, so a CPU might have to decide some guy is coming out here and he's got a gun. Let's say it's a first person game. You're walking here with your gun and it keeps track of maybe, where are objects on the screen or where are entities or something like this. And then the work that your GPU does is your GPU is okay, well, this needs to look pretty. The CPU is going to load some assets or whatever that here. And then now all of the work for computing the shaders and the graphics and everything else, this is what the GPU does, right? It's a super serialized process. It works on a lot of things in parallel. It doesn't have to wait sequentially for things to load. It can work on a ton of stuff. But if I were to have a scene here where I'm working with let's say we have a generation, I'm making up numbers here, but I have a Gen 5 CPU and a Gen 5 graphics card, maybe I can only have the graphics on low or something. But let's say that I upgrade from a Gen 5 graphics card to a Gen 10 graphics card, right? Just because I now have this and I want to load these on ultra, the call for the GPU here to draw more sophisticated shaders or whatever the fuck else it's doing dynamically, I don't know what their calculations it's making, right? There's not an additional load on the CPU, maybe a little bit more to load other assets or to call things from the VRAM or something. I don't know how much the CPU is even involved in that though. I don't think that the load on the CPU is going up very much, even though the load on the GPU can go up significantly more. I don't think that the only way, if your CPU is bottlenecking, then it's because the CPU is too slow to run the game, not because it's too slow for the GPU, if that makes sense. But maybe there's more, there might be more CPU intensive tasks now, maybe, that make that happen. So for instance, you can turn on things having to do with ragdoll effects. It wouldn't surprise me if physics calculations like that were probably done on the CPU and not necessarily on the GPU. So maybe something like that, but I don't know. Destiny, simple conventional wisdom. No one is waiting for new CPU releases to do those ultra settings new videos for video games. True, maybe. I don't know, we'll look for it. This is not anything about this. If I was president, the first thing I would do on my first day in office is I would make it illegal for videos on media websites to not be related to the article. That would be made a crime. It would be criminal, and it would be capital punishment. Why not do it on a hard disk? They have higher numbers. No, do one on a hard disk. Hard disks don't calculate things. Well, they don't calculate much. Trump, nowadays everything has some kind of CPU or something working in it. Trump golfing today. Look, there he is. This isn't the same. Photographed leaving for his golf course in Virginia. What's the source for the photo? The easy way to see the source here is, it says, oh, this is Forbes Breaking News. Is this their own reporters? I'm assuming if they're not giving credit to anybody else, then it means... Wait a second. No. No, this is their own photographers. Oh my God. Oh, see? Yeah, there you go. It's a different video. It's not the same video. You DGG schizo posters suck. Jesus Christ. Do they really need all these vehicles? The conspiracy runs deeper than we thought? Bro, where's the comic? Oh, I thought it was a comic. A man dies and goes to heaven. He asks God, God, who really killed JFK? God replies, it was Lee Harvey Oswald. He acted alone. The man pauses and then says, wow, this goes even deeper than I thought. True.
All right, we're learning shocking new details about the trans school shooter.
Who is this guy? Why do I hate him? Was he in government? I know this guy.
In Minneapolis. What
he was in Congress, wasn't he?
At the home, and what the gunman's dad.
Chavez? What? Former U.S. representative. Yeah, okay. Man, that pipeline is real. Holy shit.
Said happened shortly before the attack. Fox
what, he took his hormones? What?
Brooke Taylor has been digging into this story, and she joins us live from Minneapolis. Brooke.
Hi, Jason. Well, we're now learning from police that they have spoken with the shooter's mother after initially saying that they couldn't get into touch with her and that she hasn't been cooperating. It's not clear exactly what that conversation entailed, but I have learned that she decided to hire a criminal defense attorney.
Almost sounds like she was going to say criminal. Do you hear it? A little bit? Criminal?
Decided to hire a criminal defense attorney. I spoke to that criminal defense attorney. I asked why his client hired him. He told me, quote, she is completely distraught about the situation and has no culpability. Now, police have not said whether any family members potentially face charges. A new search warrant, meanwhile, reveals the shooter, 23-year-old Robin Westman, left a car at the scene, which was registered to his father. That father told officials the shooter was with a romantic partner. They were living together, recently broke up, so he moved out of that home and was living with a friend.
I feel like, listen, no offense, I love my trans women, okay? But man, some of you guys really waste god-tier genetics. Like, I feel like some trans women, I guess it's a curse for them, but they'll end up getting like the most giga-chatted fucking facial features of all time. And they're like, fuck, how much estrogen is it gonna take? It's like, bruh.
Police search Westman's father's house here in Minneapolis. They found a tactical vest, 2 computer drives, and documents according to that
shooter was D-trans. Oh, okay.
Warrant. Westman's father told police that his child once attended Annunciation Catholic School where this happened and the church, and that his ex-wife had also once worked here. The warrant states police found the shooter dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head, wearing black tactical gear and carrying at least 2 long guns. The 2 young children who died have been identified.
Wait, did I miss something important? Shooter's dad reveals what happened before the attack. What was the reveal?
With a romantic partner. They were living. 23-year-old Robin Westman left a car at the scene, which was registered to his father. That father told officials the shooter was with a romantic partner. They were living together, recently broke up, so he moved out of that home and was living with a friend. Police searched Westman's father's house here in Minneapolis. They found a tactical vest. What
was, when they say recently, I wonder when. The interesting thing about that diary was, I think a month ago, I think it was like July 24th or something, they wrote in the top right of one of those pages, like August 27th, like they wrote when they were going to do the shooting on that date. I wonder if that was like right after they broke up with their partner or something.
Computer drives and documents according to that warrant. Westman's father told police that his child once attended Annunciation Catholic School where this happened and the church, and that his ex-wife had also once worked here.
Oh, okay. Okay.
The warrant states police found the shooter dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head, wearing black tactical gear and carrying at least 2 long guns. The 2 young children who died have been identified by family as 8-year-old Fletcher Merkel, whose father said the young boy loved his family, friends, fishing, and all sports, and 10-year-old Harper Moisky, whose family said, quote, her laughter, kindness, and spirit touched everyone who knew her. Hundreds of people in this community have been showing up to pay their respects to these families. 18 others were injured, and tonight we're told that 6 are still in the hospital, 5 of them just young, innocent children. Jason.
Brooke, thank you. Tough, difficult, tragic story. Appreciate it.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe.
Breakup. Damn. I wonder what the. Okay, so they did it. I wonder if they were a bully of their school. So it was basically a school shooting. Is what the person did. Was the church attached to the school? Usually, in my experience, I don't know if it was always the case, but in my experience, if you go to a Catholic school, the Catholic school has like not a sister. They have like a related church. Like when I went to grade school in Omaha, I went to St. Pius X / St. Leo Catholic grade school, and there was the St. Pius church, which was connected to our school, and then there was also a St. Leo church, which was off like 102nd and Blondo or something, I think. Or 102nd and Maple? I don't remember. So it sounds like this was basically a school shooting. The person went to the old school they were in, shot it up. Still, it's dark. I don't like this. It sounds dark, but like, this person had so many weapons and shit. They only killed 2 people? What are you shooting at? It was literally like fish in a barrel. This guy's peeking in through, or girl, or whatever the fuck they were. They were peeking through a window, shooting at people. How the fuck did they... He couldn't get into the church? Why couldn't they get in? Was the door locked? Did they lock it during... Why not wait until church is over? I bet they're probably super nervous when they do this. People then posting the old June video of Trump on Twitter along with the pictures of him for some reason, which is weird because of the other footage you watched. Not sure why they would make tweets with the older vid. Probably just lazy. Destiny, 120th and Blondo. Oh, thanks. Okay. Wait, where'd my... Oh. What was your mom's reaction to the American Pope? I don't know. I don't talk to my mom about politics anymore. Although now I am curious if her early trial was one of those sick Alzheimer's drugs. Reading that Scott Alexander post, unless there's something that post was super wrong about, I feel super confident after reading that we're going to have like a cure for Alzheimer's disease within the next like 2 decades. That's kind of crazy to think about. Here's a question. Have we fixed or solved any autoimmune disease ever besides HIV? But that doesn't really count, I don't think. No. But like, wait, is HIV considered an autoimmune disease? It's not, right? It's just considered, no, it's not. It shouldn't be. Are any of them? Autoimmune diseases just seem so fucked. Like lupus? Like every autoimmune disease. My alopecia shit, although that's not bothering me anymore, but well, for now. I mean, type 1 diabetes is autoimmune. Lupus is autoimmune. Like psoriasis, stuff like that is autoimmune. A lot of skin conditions and stuff. What post? As far as I know, Alzheimer's field is a mess. I don't think it's a mess. I think they've actually, it seems like they've honed in like pretty hardcore. Again, now I might be, unless the poster was way too confident, which I guess is possible, but based on everything the guy had written, basically it seems like the thing that fucks your shit up is tau proteins accumulate in parts of the brain that start to clog it up and cause it to die, and you're fucked. The tau proteins that's like the Alzheimer's disease. That's what's like fucking you hardcore. Prior to the accumulation of misfolded tau proteins is amyloid plaque, the amyloid beta plaque. When the amyloid beta plaque begins to accumulate at a certain critical mass, it will cause the accumulation or the appearance of those tau proteins that will also begin to, once the tau proteins appear, they fuck with neighboring tau proteins and then all of it gets fucked. But apparently if you can stop like either one of these, you basically completely cancel the progression of the disease. Like if you can stop the initial accumulation or accrual, I think, of the amyloid beta plaques, then the tau protein misfolding stuff will never start to happen, and then you're basically good. The difficulty is just target one. You have to have a drug that crosses the blood-brain barrier, has a safety profile that doesn't cause like brain hemorrhages or other things. Like, so you have to find the way to deliver the drug, and then you have to be able to target people who have Alzheimer's disease, because I think, or who are in the early stages or who will develop it. Because I think once the tau proteins have accumulated, I don't think you can clean them out. I don't think that's possible. But if you get somebody early enough with these drugs, you shouldn't develop a disease, I think, theoretically. There's been a lot of drugs that are meant to disrupt amyloid beta formation that have failed drastically in clinical trials over the last few years. This isn't my area of expertise, but I believe the amyloid beta hypothesis is actually pretty controversial in the field right now. So I thought this, but this is not true. So the big amyloid beta plaque study that got blown up was about a particular amyloid beta plaque, not the whole amyloid beta plaque theory. It was a particular one that got blown up. And then in terms of like the clinical trials have been a disaster, that's not true. My understanding is for the first time ever over the past several years, you're getting trials that are having a clinically significant improvement on the disease progression. There's a smarter word there. It's not pathology, is it? The disease, the progression of the disease, like it delays the actual progression of the disease. And if you catch it early enough, you can halt basically the advancement or the development of the disease entirely. It's just a matter of you have to get the drug into the brain without causing a bunch of other side effects first. Yeah. What is this? Debate the Hodge twins. Maybe. Wait, I thought I responded to them on Instagram, and then because they reached out to me, and then I responded, and then they didn't respond back, I think. Destiny, autoimmune diseases are usually overreactive immune systems. Well, sure, definitionally so. But I mean, like, how do you get an immune system to stop overreacting to some part without destroying the whole immune system? That's why I was just curious if we've done anything on autoimmune diseases at all. So if a person starts taking aducanumab or any other anti-B amyloid in their 30s, they won't develop Alzheimer's is the theory. Yes, but the problem is you can't just give it to everybody because like there are side effects to these drugs. One being, I think right now, it's like brain bleeds, like hemorrhaging and stuff. Intracranial hemorrhaging. I think there's a smarter word there, but. Destiny, something wild. One of my professors in grad school was doing his PhD on amyloid plaque buildup in relation to aging patients and gaming, and playing shooters actually markedly halted the buildup. It also made them autistic. What? I don't know. Okay. This is all memes. When he walks out tomorrow looking like this. Bro, Twitter was so... It's crazy how you can like tweet a thing and like everybody knows exactly what you're talking about. Man, we hate this motherfucker. Also, Israel continuing to kill every motherfucker. It's now been confirmed Yemeni Prime Minister Ahmed al-Rawi was assassinated in an IDF airstrike on Sana'a 2 days ago. This is like one of 7 different ways, I think, to spell the... I believe this is the capital of Yemen. Oh, I feel like they spell this so many different ways. Sometimes it's even an apostrophe. It's the de jure capital. Sorry. To the south, I think there's a different one because this is held by the Houthis. Yemen, I think, is divided into north and south, and then Al Qaeda has like 3 houses in the middle. I think still, I don't know why, but they hang out there. Not the Yemeni prime minister, the Houthi prime minister. These are different governments. Yeah, technically, Yemen, I believe, refers to South Yemen, which is what we might call the Yemen government. But I think the Houthis have more of the important territory, which is North Yemen, South Yemen, North Yemen. No. Yes. Sorry. I think yes. South Yemen is the official government, even though South Yemen goes more north than North Yemen, but it's because it extends over, and the most important city is Aden, that port, right? I think. Yeah, you're right. I know I am. Yemen confirms Houthi Prime Minister Ahmed al-Rawi and several top ministers were eliminated in Israel's recent airstrike. They wanted war and they got one. Why did they blow them up? Oh, I guess it's because they've been doing a bunch of fuck shit. Oh, they did shoot. Didn't they shoot like one missile at Israel? Like they got all their funds together and in the buy phase, they bought like one Scud missile or something and shot it like a couple years ago or something. Didn't they shoot like one? Oh, no. No, they shot one this week. Oh, did they? Maybe they shoot a little bit more. Bro, if I was Ukraine, I would start trying to fucking capture Russian missiles and start shooting them at Israel. I feel like that's like the only country where Putin would be like, hey, listen, I swear to God we didn't attack you guys. All right? BB, don't look at me like that, okay? I promise. We're not even helping Iran anymore, bro, okay? Chill. Somebody said they shoot a ballistic missile at least once a week. Okay. Jesus. Reminder that Trump tried to do this and failed. He abandoned America's ally. Did Trump try to get the leadership? Is that true? Destiny, no but close. South Yemen is a third separate government. Houthis are to the north of them. The actual Yemeni government is to the east of both. What? In the mountains or whatever? Isn't that like nobody lives over there? Are you sure? Yemen, Wikipedia. I could be wrong. I don't know. Let me check. Get fucked. This is my understanding of the current map. And then like I think like Al-Qaeda has like one circle thing here, unless maybe they got completely blown the fuck out. That is basically divided like this, where the Houthi, Ansar Allah or whatever controls like this is considered North Yemen, and then South Yemen here. But the important, most of it is like right here. Like this is like Russia. Like all this territory I think is kind of densely populated. But I don't know, maybe that's not accurate still. Yemen civil war. Oh, is there like a third? Does anybody care about this? I don't even know who the fuck this is. What the fuck is this? Okay, let's see what we got. Okay, that. No color. All right. Republic of Yemen. This is recognized by the UN. Okay. Republic of Yemen down here. Are these the same government? Republic of Yemen over here and Republic of Yemen. Oh, no, wait. Isn't this all the same government? Pro PLC. They're just different coalition members, I guess. Yeah, this is the Yemen population density. This is what I mean when I say like this eastern part I don't think matters much. Like this is just like whatever the fuck. You never explained how you would know he actually died. What? Israel said he died. No? What do you mean? Or is it not confirmed? Did the Houthis say he died? Oh, for Trump. Sorry. There's a concept called, right, mutually assured destruction. The idea is that if you nuke us, we nuke you so that nobody nukes anybody. This is why hopefully people don't have a first strike policy. Don't nuke anybody. It's not good. You'll get fucked up. However, One of the reasons why in the balance of power, people are worried about missile defense systems, and it's why Russia and other countries oppose missile defense systems, because missile defense systems destroy the ability of mutually assured destruction, theoretically giving a first strike nuclear capability to an enemy because you can't respond now. That's why people get really angry when the U.S. talks about building like a missile shield system, because it would throw off that mutually assured destruction principle. One of the important things to do if a leader is sick or dying or something else is what the United States does is will fly these like monitor planes that are capable of doing C2, is it command and control, that will fly up and down the coasts, I think, of both sides of the country. When Trump was sick, Trump, COVID, sick, planes flying. I think you can see on Flight Tracker. Am I lying? Did I just make up a whole bunch of... No, that's not because of the president's positive test. Oh, hold on. Maybe I literally just fucking lied about every single fucking thing I said. My understanding is that we fly C2 planes to demonstrate that like the leadership structure is still intact, that we do have the capability of responding to things. I feel like I read that a lot, but maybe, who knows? Now maybe I made all of that up and it's not true. Donald Trump tweeted Friday morning that he banged First Lady Melania and they both have COVID. 2 Boeing Mercury planes showed up in a public flight data. One training course for these. Are these even the right planes? I'm not sure. Are not normal commercial aircraft. They're used to sending ballistic missile commands. News broke during this delicate moment. Oh, perhaps they suggested it was an indication that Trump had tested positive, and during this delicate moment, U.S. Strategic Command was working to send a message of deterrence to its adversaries. The idea went viral, heightening confusion and fear about the implications of Trump's diagnosis. The truth is, while they were exceptionally interesting planes, E-6Bs take off, fly, and land regularly as part of the U.S. missile defense apparatus. They need to be ready at a moment's notice, so they are. I confirm these flights were pre-planned missions. Oh, whatever. Okay, I guess maybe they're always flying. Oh, that's crazy. To transmit even the shortest messages to deep-sea submarines, E-6Bs perform special airborne maneuvers. These are essentially steep, tight turns that go on for a long period of time, looping the plane around and around to get the antennas in a vertical position, transmitting straight down into the water. Well, actually, okay, maybe this is not true then. Or rather, they're always flying. It's not just when the president's sick. But hey, actually, that's a good thing then. That means that something could happen to him, and then we wouldn't necessarily know. So we can all be more excited. So this is a good thing to be wrong about. Now look at the antenna's distance of ELF antennas. They are miles long. The antenna is miles long? Was a U.S. Navy project proposed in 1968. Okay, I don't care. That's not even an antenna. That's just a shed. And it's in Wisconsin. Double don't care. I show speed stance on the Middle East. Oh, this is old as fuck, no?
Bye-bye, Israel! Bye-bye! Bye-bye, Israel! Bye-bye!
Okay. Fuck, I was trying to find some tweet that I saw a few days ago where it was like, some cartoon gif of like, and the text was something like the 1960s CIA building, or no, it was Lockheed. Fuck, can I find it? Fuck, what was the stupid tweet? I'm never gonna find it. Whatever. It was just a meme about how we built like the most advanced spy plane in the world in the fucking 1960s with like no computers. If you really think about it, it's kind of crazy. That SR-71 that's like an insane plane, and to build that plane with I don't even know what they used back then. I guess like pencil and paper. What are they even doing? Oh shit, it was this. Thank you. You found it. Lockheed engineer. Yeah. What the fuck? I read a meme in the comments, or maybe it was on Reddit, and it was something, I don't know how true it is, but it was like they put this into like a modern CAD to see how like computers could have assisted with the processing or whatever, and apparently like only 0.5% efficiency gains could be found with the computer program. I don't know how true that is or not, but yeah, a box of scraps in a cave. I'm not Tony Stark. Have you been to the SAC Museum outside of Omaha, Destiny? They have an SR-71 there. It's fucking huge. Yes. They did an EC-135 reunion for people that flew the Looking Glass mission, and I went with my mom and dad to that, I think a year or two ago. It was with a whole bunch of people that flew that mission. I think for that mission they called it a KC-135. I don't remember, but you had to like walk through the plane, and my mom showed me the radio circuit boards or whatever that she got to flip the switches and do maintenance on and everything. So. Was the Looking Glass mission? My mom described it as there was always a plane flying. I think the Looking Glass was West Coast, maybe, or maybe it was all of them. Basically, the United States always had an airborne command and control plane with at least one general on board that had the authority to launch or counterattack with nuclear missiles. Those planes had it, but also I think the Looking Glass was also for surveillance as well. So if stuff went down, you always had like eyes in the sky and you could always see shit or something like that. I don't remember. You Wikipedia it. Okay. Wait, I'm done opening tabs. Okay, stop linking me shit. Anyone trying to play the blame game when a shooting happens and say which side the shooter was on is a fucking retard. Read their comments, the manifesto. They're not right wing or left wing. They're insane. These people transcend politics and operate in the realm of psychosis. Sometimes I would agree. I don't know if this person was psychotic or not. I would have to see more evidence of that. They didn't seem psychotic. Y'all need to get on top of the freaks on social media posting the same shit and gassing up future retards like the guy from yesterday. Also make insane asylums great again.
It is the worst.
Shut up. Did you watch the manifesto? Watch it? Yeah, I think I did, like 11 minutes, yeah. It's crazy to me the FBI can't seem to figure out what the crazies are, but you can ask anyone online and they'll all say the same place. It's embarrassing, to be honest. Example, one out of many on Reddit. Do you think Reddit is where the craziest people on the internet hang out? That's such a Reddit opinion. That might be the most Reddit opinion ever. We need to stop using these psych terms. Literally everyone has a different meaning for the words and everyone just talks past each other using them. I kind of agree, yeah. But I mean, like psychosis, I think like experiencing delusions or sensory stuff that's not there or feelings that are like not found in reality. I think it's an important to understand thing. I didn't see any evidence of the shooter being psychotic or experiencing psychosis at all. I didn't see that at all. It seems like he made this plan over a long period of time. I don't remember seeing anything that seemed to imply that he was undergoing any kind of psychosis. Like I didn't see, maybe in that huge journal, maybe he was talking about, but I didn't see any evidence of him that he was being like gang stalked or having paranoid delusions or anything like that. The cancer stuff made up the lung cancer. I don't know how much if that's like a meme or not. I couldn't really tell. I don't know. If that journal was filled with a lot more writing about lung cancer and shit, maybe, but.
People who are openly in the government just says, I don't know where it is. Like, these are people who are openly making calls to violence constantly on social media platforms. Are you really telling me that you can't figure out who's doing this? What the fuck are we doing? Are you telling me that Destiny can find Ethan Klein's 15-year-old Reddit account to embarrass him over an internet beef, but the FBI can't figure out who's making threats right now? What the fuck is going on? Really?
Few things. So one, even though my community wants to take credit for it and everybody wants to give my community credit for it, and I would like it, my community did find it, I would take credit for it. It was actually, I'm pretty sure that was found by a Snarker sub or a guy posting on the Snarker sub. That's where I saw it initially. It wasn't my community that originated from. Number one. Number two, unfortunately, and I know even you guys don't like to hear this from me, but whatever, the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, these are not the all-powerful agencies that you think they are, okay? Jesus, like I literally had 60 gigabytes. I'm just kidding! Joke! My FBI guy, I'll talk to you later. That was a joke though, okay? Not probable, stop, joke. But these agencies, they have limited manpower, limited staffing, limited resources. They don't have eyes everywhere. They can't see and go through everything. Like they're humans. Like they might have access to some more sophisticated stuff. Like obviously they've got like subpoena power. They have the ability to, they can honeypot like in some circumstances or whatever, but they can't see everywhere. You know, like a dedicated community could absolutely uncover and find and do things more so than like even an intelligence agency could, depending upon what exactly you're looking for. It just depends, you know.
Resolution.
Okay, wait, what is this?
Nightmare of the Secret Service. It is the worst nightmare of the Secret Service. An attack on the President of the United States.
After doesn't that joke. I'm trying to, I can't make memes for shit, but I had a friend make a meme of the Willie Mac thing. I just don't know when I'm ever going to get to use it. The, this thing? I just don't know when I'll get to use it. I'm going to think of something for this, okay? I'll figure it out, okay?
While he's traveling. Hidden beneath this manhole cover is a bomb that went undetected, and it can be triggered remotely. Just seconds.
Your argument against Epstein's vertebrae breaking got absolutely fucking destroyed. You're gonna keep pretending this doesn't exist? These are under controlled conditions solely, and this isn't like a normal use case. It doesn't happen 100% of the time, although I do agree it is harder to argue ever since somebody brought this to my attention.
From now, the presidential motorcade will be passing over exactly this spot.
But this is not the only danger. A few blocks away, there is a second threat. Located in a dimly lit room, a sniper is overlooking the intersection, where the president will soon be. And a little further down the road, a van with tinted windows is parked, close to the blocked-off streets. Inside, a man is preparing a rocket launcher that will soon be aimed at the motorcade. Fortunately, these three scenarios are purely fictional, but they will demonstrate the rigorous effort the Secret Service undertakes to ensure that the president remains secure during travel. While the president is still about 2 minutes away from the manhole cover with the bomb, the first car of the motorcade, the route car, is already driving past this spot. This car, together with the pilot car, ensures that the road is clear of obstructions. The sweepers, which are primarily motorcycles, follow the route car and pilot car and help clear the road ahead. However, they are unable to identify the bomb, and the core of the motorcade, consisting of Secret Service vehicles with the president on board, is approaching. As the president's limousine rolls towards the manhole cover, a person remotely pulls the trigger, and suddenly, nothing happens. The remote trigger didn't work, and that is because of this car, the Electronic Countermeasure Suburban, one of the most technically impressive vehicles in the motorcade. On its roof, antennas emit radio frequencies that drown out any bomb activation signal. This technique is called barrage jamming, and it essentially works by the antennas emitting such a strong noise signal that other signals simply cannot get through. And so, the motorcade continues undisturbed towards the second threat, the sniper in the window. Located behind the Electronic Countermeasure Suburban is the president's vehicle, commonly known by its nickname, the Beast. However, you can never be sure in which car the president is, as there are 2 identical presidential limousines on the road. Following behind,
2? Why not like 10?
Are 2 cars carrying the president's most important security personnel, ready to take action in the event of an attack. This is the so-called halfback in which the president's personal Secret Service agents are located. No matter what happens, these agents will stay with the president. The other car carries the counter-assault team. These heavily armed agents can remain on site and fight off an attack. This creates a secure buffer between attackers and the president. Behind these cars are the control car and the support car. These transport additional Secret Service agents, essential presidential staff, as well as the president's personal doctor. But unknown to any of them, they are currently approaching another threat as the motorcade arrives at the intersection the sniper has scouted out. The fact that there are 2 identical cars makes it difficult for the shooter, but unfortunately he catches a glimpse through the glass, aims, and pulls the trigger.
Nope! That's Tesla glass.
Such a scenario naturally brings back memories of the 1963 assassination of John F. Kennedy, who was shot while driving his motorcade through Dallas. Since that time, the presidential limousine has undergone many changes. Kennedy's car was a specially modified 1961 Lincoln Continental. Unfortunately though, only a few of the adjustments made were related to security improvements. The car was retrofitted with a luxurious heating and air conditioning system, as well as lights, sirens, fire extinguishers, and radio telephones for communication. The car was also extended to include a middle row of jump seats that can fold away when not in use.
Wait, did bongers ever call, oh no, wait, I keep fucking this up. The telly is a television, not a telephone. Did you ever call cell phones cellies? Or no?
The roof was made to be completely removable, and the cushion on the rear bank where the president sits was raised. Both these modifications were designed to make the president more visible to the public. Unfortunately, it also made him more vulnerable. After
Holy shit. This is Bruce Lee's master.
Kennedy's assassination, the car was massively rebuilt. A top of bulletproof glass was installed, and the body of the car was now protected with titanium armor. Perhaps somewhat symbolic, the light convertible appearance, representative of a hopeful time, was built up into a tank set to protect his more divisive successor.
Ip Man,
Luckily, today's limousine is well prepared for such an attack, and the shot has absolutely no chance of success.
Damn. Wait, I've talked about it before, right? It's kind of funny how in like anime, or I don't know if this is a common kung fu trope, but like when the master shows up, he's always supposed to be like this crazy, ultra, insane badass. But doesn't that imply then that your student's getting weaker over time? Like, shouldn't the student always be better than the master? Isn't that kind of weird?
The current Beast has been in service since September.
Like, oh, you think this guy's crazy. Here's the guy who trained that guy. Well, yeah, but the guy he trained should be better than the guy who trained him, right?
2018, and is a completely custom-built vehicle by General Motors. Although
no, the point is they're still learning. Doesn't Rurouni Kenshin basically not have the ability to fight anymore after killing Shishio? Like, he damages his body too much?
In service since September 2018, and is a completely custom-built vehicle by General Motors. Although visually reminiscent of a sedan, the car was actually built based on a truck platform. This was necessary to support the over 15,000-pound heavy armored vehicle.
Wow.
The interior is hermetically sealed against any form of chemical attack. The tires are able to continue driving, even when shot, and the doors are 8 inches thick and equipped with handles that, with the switch of a button, can be electrified in order to prohibit entry to outsiders. Always inside the car, there is a storage of blood, of the same blood type as the president. It is a luxury tank designed to withstand any possible threat. But the biggest challenge in our scenario is yet to come, as just 2 blocks away, the van with the rocket launcher prepares to test the car's endurance. Behind the solid core of vehicles directly protecting the president are a few larger vans. These carry the press pool of reporters that travel with the president. This car behind is the ID car. It functions as the motorcade's communications hub, relaying information between the different vehicles and identifying problems early on. Behind that is the Hazardous Materials Mitigation Unit. a vehicle equipped to respond to biological, chemical, and even nuclear attacks. It carries the necessary equipment and personnel to treat the effects of such an attack effectively.
Why do I care? Okay, he just has a lot of shit with him. Why was I link this video? I don't care. What is this? Oh, for my GPU things. Hold on.
Resolution, the higher the native resolution, the less the CPU works. That's not really the case. That's not really how this works.
The higher the... Why would anybody think that?
I got a comment. Why not just up the resolution? The higher the native resolution, the less the CPU works. Except that's not true. At least it's drawing a connection.
Wait, what the fuck game is this? Wait, when did programmers learn to take advantage of more than one thread on a CPU? Is that a thing today?
Of two things that are not actually the same thing. So this seems to be a really common misunderstanding based on how many comments I got like that on my Battlefield 6's CPU limited, here's what you do video. I had a lot of suggestions in the comments saying, well, just raise the rendering resolution of the game because that makes the work on the CPU easier. As if that's going to increase performance. Because again, the point of that video is what do you do to increase performance when you are CPU limited? Now this video is not about what do you do to increase performance when your CPU is limited. Watch the other video for that. What I'm talking about here is clearing up this misunderstanding, because I think some people have heard that at higher resolutions, your CPU is not as important, and draw the conclusion that if you turn up the rendering resolution of the game from like 1080p to 1440p or 4K, that somehow that makes the game run better on the CPU. And that is absolutely not what's happening, and that's not what people mean by that. So let's make sure we clear this up. Also a little bit about something some people might not know about things like DLSS and FSR and how it affects CPU performance. But anyway, let's start with clearing up.
There are way too many fucking abbreviations now for graphics related shit. What the fuck? So many 4-letter acronyms now.
The misconception. So right now, I am definitely CPU limited. Now, despite none of the core indicating exactly 100% usage or anything like that, and the CPU itself is only reporting about 60% utilization, we're definitely CPU limited. You look at the GPU. The GPU is in this kind of 60-something% usage range. The GPU is waiting for the CPU. The CPU can get bottlenecked on an individual thread being near 100%, or even things like the cache or the connection to system RAM. There's all sorts of stuff, but the point is here, the GPU is waiting for the CPU. And we're getting...
Is that necessarily true? I feel like that's not necessarily true. For the GPU utilization here, oh my god, I haven't done computer shit in so long. You have the GPU, the graphical processing unit itself, is the thing that like does the calculations. You've got the memory buffer, whatever, the speed between the the VRAM and the GPU itself. Couldn't the GPU have bottlenecks within the GPU? Like if you had a GPU, for instance, that had a low memory, had low memory or bad memory buffer, can't the GPU get paused or bottlenecked waiting for things to come from either VRAM or come from an SSD or whatever if it's trying to load textures and it can't hold it? Like, couldn't the GPU bottleneck itself? I just realized I shouldn't be asking these questions to chat. Never mind. The CPU coordinates everything. The CPU does not coordinate everything. The GPU is a sophisticated machine that does a lot of work on its own as well. Like eventually, I'm sure, ultimately, the CPU probably has to make calls to the GPU and stuff to get stuff related to the game to work, sure. But the CPU is not ordering every single individual internal thing of the GPU to do every single thing.
Getting around 190-ish frames per second. It varies because I'm in a live multiplayer environment, and apologies to my teammate. You've all probably had somebody like me standing in your spawn. Blame me. If you find somebody standing in spawn doing absolutely nothing to help the team, assume it's me doing a benchmark video, okay? Anyway, we're going to go ahead and change the graphics resolution. So we're going to get kind of the mid 190 frames per second-ish range. So if I go up to 1440p, is performance going to get better since we were seeing...
If that were true in this case, the GPU would indicate 100% load in the video. I don't think that's necessarily true. I think that Oh my God, it's been too long. I don't know if I can do this. Like a GPU, a graphics card, I think is a computer. Like it's basically a computer in and of itself, I believe. I think that a lot of this architecture is mirrored. I don't remember as much. So for instance, on a PCB is a printed circuit board, okay? For a PCB, you'll have a thing here, okay? This is our computer, right? We call this the CPU, all right? It might store things very closely to the CPU in these different caches, and then it might reach into something close by on the motherboard for very accessible stuff called the RAM, right? And then for like long-term storage, it'll be using, these days it's like SATA lanes, I think, to look for like NVMEs or SSDs or whatever, but like long-term storage. If you're ever calculating something where you're having to draw from this, you're lagging. This is horrible. Generally, you want things in RAM that you're working with, and then for calculations, you're actively working on your L1, L2, L3 cache. I don't know if they've made more caches at this point, but I think this is like roughly, basically. A graphics card, I don't believe, it's not just a processor. I think a graphics card is similar in that you have like a GPU that's basically like a processor, essentially. And then I believe it also has VRAM, right? I don't know if it has like caches and stuff. The lanes or the communication between the VRAM, is this your memory lanes, or what am I thinking of? Like how much data can go back and forth or something? I don't believe there's no storage like unit like an SSD. This stuff has to come from the actual computer, I think. So like if you're playing a game, I don't know how, oh my God, I haven't played games in so long, I just realized it's my information. I'm pretty sure the architecture is still similar. Like if you look somewhere or when you walk into a new area in a video game, if there's like it's like chunking along, then it's because for whatever reason, like something's not in the VRAM and you're having to wait for information to be retrieved from your solid state drive. You're having to wait for like data retrieval to go all the way to the GPU. It's like a bunch of bullshit, basically. Not good stuff. But anyway, is it not the case that there might be like your buffer might be full, or you can't transfer stuff in and out of the VRAM quick enough, but your GPU is not actually working at 100%. So you could get oh, it's only 50% utilization of your GPU, but it's not because you're waiting on the CPU. It's because other bottlenecks can exist on the GPU, on the graphics card PCB, like in some other part of this thing. I feel like that's true. Look up utilization GPU and utilization memory. You're waiting on the CPU. It has to render the frames delivered by the GPU. The CPU, I'm pretty sure all rendering happens on the GPU. Like that's literally where your graphics are delivered out of. Why would you send data back to the CPU to render and then have the CPU send it back to the GPU to put out the display port at the back? What does CPU stand for? I don't know. Computer processing unit or central processing unit? What am I looking for? Utilization.gpu, a percent of time over the past sample period during which one or more kernels was executing on the GPU. The sample period may be between 1 second and 1/6 second depending on the product. Utilization memory, percentage of time over the past sample during the global device was being read or written. The sample period may be, okay. Kernels is executing on the GPU. Meaning the GPU is performing some kind of calculation, basically, right? I don't know how often this can be limited by stuff on board, like the VRAM or VRAM speed. I'm not sure. Okay, sorry. Anyway.
CPU limited, but we're raising the resolution, which should make the workload of the CPU easier, right?
What? Like, who would ever say that? Why would higher resolution make the workload easier on the CPU?
Wait a minute. We're still getting the mid 190 FPS range. We're getting exactly the same performance. Again, things dip momentarily as explosions and things happen on the map in the live multiplayer environment, but effectively we have exactly the same performance at both 1080p and at 1440p right now. Now notice that the GPU is now working harder. Its usage percentage is higher. It's closer to 80%. But the CPU is doing about the same thing. So to be clear, when you change the rendering resolution of a game, it has little to no impact on the work that the CPU is being assigned. The kinds of jobs that a CPU does is rarely majorly impacted by the rendering resolution of the game. The rendering resolution of the game is just how many little dots are being put together on the screen. That's the work that, right, how many pixels are going up on your screen in each frame. That's work that the GPU does. The GPU is—
That makes sense, yeah.
What is primarily affected by rendering resolution of the game.
By raising the resolution, it pushes more of the workload onto the GPU, so the GPU becomes the bottleneck rather than the CPU. That's like looking at bottleneck in the most retarded way possible. I don't believe that. That's like saying, like right now, let's say that I was like sipping water through a straw, and then I have like a cup of water, and I want to be able to drink water faster, and the bottleneck is the bottleneck is like my lips or whatever. No, I don't even know. I can't even make an analogy. That's so dumb. No, but if you're increasing the workload to overwhelm one other thing to make it the bottleneck, you're not increasing your overall performance. You've just, yeah, and you're not, and I don't like the term shifting workload, because it's not like at low resolution, the CPU's doing work on the resolution, then a high resolution, the GPU takes over. It's just you're ordering more work from the GPU, no?
Now, in certain games, some stuff can kind of scale up a bit with the resolution that's being calculated on the CPU, but if anything, that would actually make the work a little bit harder on the CPU as you increase the resolution, not lower. Now, it is true that if I now go to 4K resolution, we'll probably see the CPU working a little bit less hard, but that's just because we're going to become GPU limited and the overall frame rate in the game is going to be lower. So again, let's get an idea of what performance is like right now. It looks like we're in the kind of the mid 180 range because it looks like there's more people in the game in this area right now compared to a couple minutes ago. Let's go up to 4K resolution. We're going to notice that performance is just going to be lower overall. So notice that now we're getting around mid 150 FPS range. Also notice that the GPU utilization is now up to around 94-95%, indicating that we are now mostly GPU limited. So notice the CPU is working a little bit less hard now, but that doesn't mean that the game is performing better. Okay, so that's what I want to say here. So the comment's saying, why not just up the resolution? The higher the native resolution, the less the CPU works. That's not really the case. That's not really how this works. Increasing the resolution doesn't help your performance when you are CPU limited. The only thing that happens here is an indirect connection. The raising of the resolution makes the GPU work harder. And if the GPU has to work hard enough, it will compute frames slower than the CPU does and lower the overall frame rate of the game. And then the CPU will just be waiting around for the GPU, and that is what's going to reduce the burden on the CPU. But
my guess is because the CPU probably does do some calculations that are tied to the frame rate, so the more you can drive down the frame rate, the less work the CPU does, probably.
Also, this whole idea that gaming at higher resolutions like 4K and stuff is going to be primarily like you don't really have to worry about your CPU. I see so many comments where people say like, man, if you have like a 4K display, you don't even need to think about your CPU. That is such a backwards way of looking at this. It's really old-fashioned because the thing is, most people on a 4K display now aren't gaming at native 4K resolution. It's true that native 4K resolution is so demanding on the GPU that it's very likely that you will end up GPU limited.
Wait, real quick. If I have my Windows display thing set to do 150% of like zoom or whatever, that's not like upscaling my gaming and stuff, right? No, it's not. Okay.
But oftentimes, if you're in a game that has like DLSS 4 or FSR4 support, rendering at performance mode upscaling is honestly oftentimes looking very close to native resolution. Certain elements actually get reconstructed with more stability than a native TAA implementation. And so if I go to DLSS performance mode here,
I don't know what any of those things are.
Notice we're once again CPU limited, okay? So when you're in DLSS performance mode, the game is actually rendering at 1080p internally. And then there's an additional frame time cost on the GPU tensor cores for the upscaling algorithm. So there's additional frame time for the upscale part, taking it from 1080p to 4K. So it does perform, it is harder on the GPU than rendering at a native 1080p because of the upscale. But essentially you are reducing a lot of the GPU workload down to as if you were playing at a lower rendering resolution. So if you're playing online competitive games on a high resolution display, it's very likely that you will be using upscaling in order to reduce the burden on the GPU and push frame rates as high as you can. So you should really not think of your monitor resolution as having being the primary deciding factor on like how good of a CPU do you need. Really what's going on is the CPU is more about the frame rate. Your CPU can compute a certain frame rate. If your GPU is computing a lower frame rate than your CPU, then yeah, the burden on the CPU will be low and it's not the deciding factor. You're not CPU limited. But if you reduce the burden on the GPU by lowering graphics settings or lowering the resolution either directly or using something like DLSS, which is what a lot of people don't really think about. DLSS performance mode is 1080p rendering with a little bit of upscaling cost, okay? Even on a 4K display. that you are now, like I've done here, oftentimes can become CPU limited because it's really, again, about the frame rate. The frame rate the CPU can reach, not about the resolution. The resolution is impacting the workload on the GPU primarily, and only very minorly on the CPU, if at all, depending on the game. Now, another thing I want to bring up here, since we're talking about using DLSS and upscaling when CPU limited, and I want to go down to 1080p resolution to make this more clear, because then we're going to be CPU limited regardless of whether we're using DLSS or not, is that actually, if you're CPU limited at native resolution, it actually makes your performance slightly worse to use upscaling, like DLSS and FSR. Not majorly so to where I think this is a big deal, but it's worth noting here. Notice I'm getting around 185 to 190 FPS right now in the scene. Looks like we're about 190 right now. And this is using DLSS performance at 1080p, and we are extremely CPU limited. Went down to 180 there for a second, so it's a little hard in the live multiplayer environment to get exact like-for-like comparisons, but we'll switch back and forth a couple of times so you can see it. If I turn off DLSS, we're actually going to get slightly better performance. Again, we'll have to switch back and forth a couple of times to see it because of the live multiplayer kind of affecting the frame rates, but okay. So it looks like we're at about 188 frames per second right now, 186, 187. We're going to go ahead and turn DLSS back on, and we're going to see that's going to settle in at a slightly lower frame rate. Looks like lower 180s. Again, it's really hard to show in a live multiplayer environment. Maybe not the best way to show this. But again, if I turn DLSS off, we're going to go to slightly higher frame rates once it settles in. Generally, okay. Looks like whatever's going on in the game right now is being more CPU demanding, so it's kind of wrecking a little bit of the demonstration I'm trying to make here. But kicking on DLSS performance should slightly lower things again. Okay.
My team managed in every multiplayer game ever.
Again, hard to show in the live multiplayer environment. But the point is that running DLSS and FSR generally has a little bit of a CPU frame time cost in my testing, meaning that if you're already CPU limited, kicking on upscaling not only doesn't help your performance because it's relieving the burden on the GPU, but can add a little bit of a CPU burden. Which, again, just doesn't help your situation, so it's at least worth noting. But anyway, that was just a little bit of a side point in this video. So the main point of this video is to make sure that people understand that your CPU can reach a certain frame rate in a game that is largely, in most games, independent of what the resolution the game is rendering at. The resolution the game is rendering at is primarily impacting the GPU, not the CPU. The CPU is just capable of a certain frame rate. Adjusting the resolution changes the frame rate that the GPU is able to reach, and if the GPU is slower than the CPU, then that's where your game's at, and your usage on the CPU will be lower, but just because the CPU is waiting around. If you get to a higher frame rate on the GPU, then you'll eventually just reach your CPU limit, and that's as high as it can go. So you're just stuck there unless there's some graphic settings in the game that actually primarily impact the CPU, and you adjust those.
Are ordinary games today actually taking advantage of all these threads on CPUs? Have they gotten to that point? I guess maybe that is a thing today.
Or you overclock your CPU, or adjust your RAM timings, or get a faster CPU.
Because I feel like in all the games of the past, it was basically one thread is going to get fucking raped. Every other thread is doing like 5% work, and then nothing.
That's pretty much it. And again, if you're using a higher resolution display, but you're using upscaling, DLSS, FSR, XeSS, that is effectively lowering the burden on the GPU. You're increasing frame rates, and you can hit that CPU limit. So again, it is not really the case that the higher the native resolution, the less the CPU works. The higher or lower the resolution is largely independent of what the CPU is doing. The only thing that's changing is the workload on the GPU, and the only thing that you can do is if you raise the resolution high enough, you become GPU limited, which is fine. I'll probably end with that too. It's like some people seem to also think it's bad if either the CPU or the GPU is the limiting factor, and we're just identifying what the case is. It's useful to know which one is the limiting factor for a couple of reasons. One is, if you know that you're CPU limited, you know that you could run at maybe a higher resolution if your monitor is capable of it and still achieve the same frame rate. But raising the resolution will never increase the frame rate on the CPU, just to be clear. Also, if you know that you're CPU limited, you might know that there's very few graphic settings that are going to help you. So you might be able to run a lot of things at higher graphic settings and still achieve the same frame rate. If you know that you're CPU limited, you'll know which part to upgrade if you want better performance in that game. And then if you know that you're GPU limited, you know that turning down resolution using DLSS, etc., is actually useful. Anyway, so it's useful to know which one's the limiting factor, but we're also not necessarily blaming one or the other. And also, this can vary a ton game by game. Battlefield 6 is pretty light on the GPU. It's pretty well optimized on the GPU side and runs pretty well, pretty fast on a lot of hardware. On the CPU side of things, I would argue it's actually still pretty well optimized in that it utilizes the CPU well, but the kinds of things that are happening in the game are just very CPU dependent. Having a large player count, like 64 players, with physics going on in the environment, with destruction and explosions, etc., this is all the kind of stuff that makes the CPU have to work pretty hard. And so it makes sense that in a game like this, you might be more likely to become CPU limited than in other games. So just be aware of that. So if you're planning a build for a game like Battlefield, it's useful to know that pairing a higher end CPU than you would usually see listed as recommended with a certain GPU might actually make sense. So if you're targeting a PC build for a certain game, it is useful to know if that game is particularly heavy on the CPU or the GPU. If you're planning to build around Battlefield 6, it's not a bad idea to overkill the CPU side of things in order to maximize your performance compared to just doing a generally recommended PC build. Hopefully you guys found this video somewhat useful and or interesting. I know many of you did already know most of this, but apparently based on a lot of comments, not everybody did, so it's sometimes useful to have a helpful reminder. And remember, if you're gaming at 4K resolution, when you're using DLSS performance, I'm not saying it's a bad thing to do, just be aware, you're relieving the burden on the GPU, and you can then become CPU limited fairly easily in a lot of multiplayer titles like this. All right, I let my team down here. I better stop recording videos in Spawn and maybe actually play the game. Hope you guys all have a good day.
And slaves dig the earth for beautiful gems called quartz, which contain silicon dioxide. Alchemists or chemical engineers then refine and cook them into silicon substrate, a material that can be doped to act as both a conductor and insulator. Shamans, also known as electrical.
Multi-threading really isn't that hard for a lot of things. It's more annoying than difficult. But the way that it used to go back in the day is they would say games weren't really multi-threaded, because if you just think about what a video game is and how a video game works, you're kind of like you're processing things sequentially because there's just not a lot of parallelization to go on. Like you have to be moving forward in time. You need a steady stream of frames to like play a video game. So you just couldn't make a lot of these things parallel calculations. Like it just had to be moving through one thread basically. Yeah, but maybe that's changed, or maybe other things are going on now.
Engineers and inscribe billions of microscopic symbols on them that can't be seen with the naked eye. When lightning passes through them, they can speak the incomprehensible language of binary. Highly trained wizards called software engineers can learn this language to build powerful machines that create illusions. These illusions can then control the way people think and act in the real world. In today's illusion, I will harness this magic to...
There's a range changing games thanks to Vulkan and changes to game engines. DirectX fucked us with one thread.
Back the veil on the almighty computer by looking at 4 different ways computers actually compute things at the hardware level. Because to boot, a computer needs a PU, like a CPU, GPU, TPU, or DPU. The last 100 years have been crazy. The first truly programmable computer was the Z1, which was created by Conrad Zuse in 1936 in his mom's basement, but then it got blown up in 1943 during the bombardment of Berlin. It's entirely mechanical with over 20,000 parts. It represents binary data with sliding metal sheets. It could do things like Boolean algebra and floating point numbers, and had a clock rate of 1 hertz, which means it could execute 1 instruction per second. To put that in perspective, modern CPUs are measured in gigahertz, or billions of cycles per second. Over the next 10 years, people thought really hard about how computers should actually work. And in 1945, we got the von Neumann architecture, which is still used in modern chips today. It's the foundational design that describes how data and instructions are stored in the same memory space, then handled by a processing unit. A couple years later, there was a huge breakthrough with the invention of the transistor, which is a semiconductor that can amplify or switch electrical signals. Like a transistor could represent a 1 if current passes through it, or a 0 if current doesn't pass through it. This was a huge leap forward. Then in 1958, the integrated circuit was developed, allowing multiple
that's that Hunter Biden shit.
transistors to be placed on a single silicon chip. Then finally in 1971, Intel released the first commercially available microprocessor that had all the features you know and love from a modern CPU. It was a 4-bit processor, meaning it could handle 4 bits of data at a time with approximately 2300 transistors. The clock speed was 740 kilohertz, which was extremely fast at the time. CPUs are pretty complicated, and if you really want to learn how they work, I'd highly recommend reading CPU.land, which does an amazing job of breaking down how they actually execute programs. It's totally free and was written by high schoolers Leximatic and Hack Club, but what I want to focus on is what they're actually used for, so we can compare them to the other PUs. Like its name implies, the central processing unit is like the brain of a computer. It runs the operating system, executes programs, and manages hardware. It has access to the system's RAM and includes a hierarchy of caches on the chip itself for faster data retrieval. A CPU is optimized for sequential computations that require extensive branching and logic. Like imagine some navigation software that needs to run an algorithm to compute the shortest possible route between 2 points. The algorithm may have a lot of conditional logic like if-else statements that can only be computed one by one or sequentially. A CPU is optimized for this type of work. Now modern CPUs also have multiple cores, which allows them to do work in parallel, which allows you to use multiple applications on your PC at the same time. And programmers can write code that does multi-threading to utilize the cores on your machine to run code in parallel. Check out this video on my second channel if you want to learn how to do that in JavaScript. Now to make a computer faster, one might think we could just add more and more CPU cores. The reality though is that CPU cores are expensive. As the cores scale up, so does power consumption and the heat dissipation requirements. It becomes a matter of diminishing returns, and the extra complexity is just not worth it. At the time of this video, 24 cores is typically the upper limit of higher end chips, like Apple's M2 Ultra and Intel's i9. But there are massive chips like the 128 core AMD EPYC designed for data centers. Now when it comes to CPUs, there are multiple different architectures out there, and that's a big deal if you're doing low-level systems programming, but every developer should be familiar with ARM and x86. 64-bit x86 is what you'll find on most modern desktop computers, while ARM is what you'll find on mobile devices because it has a more simplified instruction set and better power efficiency, which means better battery life. However, this distinction has been changing over the last few years thanks to the Apple Silicon chips, which have proven that the ARM architecture can also work for high-performance computing on laptops and desktops, and even Microsoft is investing in running Windows with ARM. In addition, ARM is becoming more and more popular with cloud providers like the Neoverse chip or Amazon's Graviton 3, which allows the cloud to compute more stuff with less power consumption, which is one of the biggest expenses in a data center. But at some point, we've all hit the limitations of a CPU. Like when I try to run pirated Nintendo 64 games on my Raspberry Pi, it lags like crazy. That's because a lot of computation is required to calculate the appearance of all the lights and shadows in a game on demand. Well, that's where the GPU comes in. A graphics processing unit or graphics card is highly optimized for parallel computing. Unlike a CPU with a measly 16 cores, NVIDIA's RTX 4080 has nearly 10,000 cores. Each one of these cores can handle a floating point or integer computation per cycle, and that allows games to perform tons of linear algebra in parallel to render graphics instantly every time you push a button on your controller. GPUs are also essential for training deep learning models that perform tons of matrix multiplication on large datasets. This has led to massive demand in the GPU market, and NVIDIA's stock price recently landed on the moon.
So he says, okay, give me $200. I gave him $200, and for $200, I bought 15%, I think it was 20% of NVIDIA.
If GPUs have so many cores, why not just use a GPU over a CPU for everything? The short answer is that not all cores are created equal. A single CPU core is far faster than a single GPU core, and its architecture can handle complex logic and branching, whereas a GPU is only designed for simple computations. Most of the code out in the world can't take advantage of parallel computing and needs to run sequentially with a single thread. A CPU is like a Toyota Camry. It's extremely versatile but can't take you to the moon. A GPU is more like a rocket ship. It's really fast when you want to go in a straight line, but not really ideal for going to pick up your groceries. As the name implies, GPUs were originally designed for graphics, but nowadays everybody wants them to train an AI that can overthrow the government. But there's actually hardware designed for that use case called the TPU, or tensor processing unit. These chips are very similar to GPUs, but designed specifically for tensor operations, like the matrix multiplication required for deep learning. They were developed by Google in 2016 to integrate directly with its TensorFlow software. A TPU contains thousands of these things called multiply accumulators. It allows the hardware to perform matrix multiplication without the need to access registers or shared memory like a GPU would. And if you have a neural network that's going to take weeks or months to train, a TPU could save you millions of dollars. That's pretty cool, but that brings us to the newest type of PU, the DPU, or data processing unit. The CEO of NVIDIA described it as the third major pillar of computing going forward, but you'll likely never use one in your own computer because they're designed specifically for big data centers. They're most like a CPU and typically based on the ARM architecture, but are highly optimized for moving data around. They handle networking functions like packet processing, routing, and security, and also deal with data storage like compression and encryption. The main goal is to relieve the CPU from any data processing jobs, so it can focus on living its best life by doing
Wait, that's true. Did you know you can barely feel anything happening to your elbow skin? You can literally bite random people there and they won't notice. Yeah, wait, you can't feel anything on that. Is this an exploit? How can we use this to our advantage?
General purpose computing. And with that, we've looked at 4 different ways a computer computes. But there's one more wildcard that we might get to experience in our lifetime, and that's the QPU, or quantum processing unit. All the chips we've looked at so far deal in bits, ones and zeros, but quantum computers deal in qubits, or quantum bits that can exist in a superposition of both states simultaneously. Now, a qubit can represent multiple possibilities at once, but when measured, it collapses into one of the possible states based on probability. These qubits are subject to quantum entanglement, which means the state of one is directly related to another, no matter the distance between them. These properties are used together to create quantum gates, which are like logic gates in regular computers, but work in entirely different ways that I'm too stupid to understand. What I do understand is that if this technology ever gets good, it will completely change the world. Currently, cryptographic systems like RSA are underpinned by the fact that classical algorithms used for factoring.
Why do I get this? Didn't tell me what I wanted to know. Fuck you. Okay. I don't even know why we did. Okay, don't care. This can also apply to your entire forearm along the bone on the pinky side. Ouch. 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 No, you lied. Every single pinch just hurt. Fuck you. Okay. Well, then let's just look up then. Expedition 33 benchmarks CPU. 4 generation CPU and GPU and CPU benchmarks. Most optimized UE5 game. Spoiler!
Claire Obscure Expedition 33 has been a smashing hit, getting a lot of praise from players and critics alike. I'm loving it. It's another UE5 game that makes good use of the engine's signature features, but does it suffer from the same drawbacks that other UE5 games do, like stuttering for example, or have Sandfall Interactive crack the optimization code? That's what we're going to try to find out in this video. I'll use my collection of PC gaming hardware to test the game across multiple generations of GPU and CPU to see how scalable the game really is. From the high end all the way to console level CPU. Speaking of consoles, since they try to target a 4K resolution output, so will we.
Okay.
My biggest complaint about the game is that it doesn't have support for frame generation or FSR.
What?
Like at all. Thus no chance for FSR 4 anytime soon without having to rely on modding. UE5's TSR does an okay job I guess, but it does exhibit some flickering issues. DLSS does the best job out of the three I'd say, with XeSS being pretty good actually. If you're an AMD GPU, I'd recommend using XeSS and just forget about DSR.
Okay, just show me the fucking graph.
While I was at it,
Spoilers!
Unbelievable, guys. I'm surprised the frame times look as good as they do with the Ryzen 3700.
Oh, sorry. What? Why would you do this as a reviewer? Cool, thank you for sticking them up here. I can read that.
Averages and 1% lows are very comparable to our last three setups. If anything, it goes to show that you can make things work with what you have in most cases. A message I want to relay more in my audience with the hardware market being the way it is. X not so much, and they're both around 6 years old PC gaming architectures, running an Unreal Engine 5 game with Lumen and Nanite add ports to use it. Here
Okay, fuck this guy.
you want, but these are just my opinions around this.
6.3k subs, why do we even...
Claire Obscure Expedition 33 is a game on PC that is more polished than you might expect given the size of the developer, but also has some noticeable presentation issues that conflict with its strong narrative focus, and also a number of PC-specific issues, which in some ways make it the least polished version of the game. In regards to user experience, this is generally a very standard UE5 release to start for optimizing the game, and we're going to look at those quality settings that...
Wait, this is for settings.
So coming to the end of the video after having said that, I want to say that I had a lot of fun with this game, and I found it...
What? E33 CPU benchmark. Oh no, not this guy. He's gonna shit on my... How do I find out if my CPU is... I want to know if it bottlenecks this game. Did people probably don't test games with different CPUs. They probably test different GPUs, huh? That's probably what they do. How old do I even fucking have this? What do I have? Oh. I don't even know how old this processor is. 10,900K age. Can my 10900K survive in 2022? Well, that's not good to read. Jesus. Oh, 2020. I was like 5 or 6 years old. Whatever. I'll look at the frame rate next time we play. Fuck it. Okay. What do we have? Don't care about this. Oh, we got him. Let's see what Taylor Lorenz's new Wired article. Okay, got that. How does Japan solve their housing issues?
Asia. Housing crisis, a term that today defines life in almost any major city. From America to Europe and Asia, owning or even renting a property is becoming unaffordable even for the middle class, and no one seems to be able to do anything about it. But that's not the case here, in the world's largest urban area, housing almost 40 million people, in Tokyo. Even though the city itself is bigger than New York, and its population is growing just as quickly, somehow Tokyo manages to avoid a crippling housing crisis. And compared to any other peer city, including London, Singapore, or even Shanghai, rent and property prices in Tokyo are incredibly cheap. So much that
What GP do I have? I just got a 5090.
Tokyo has been called the world's last big city with affordable housing. And that's not a coincidence, but a result of a unique Japanese approach to urban urban planning that's completely different than in any other country. So how does Tokyo manage to stay so big?
Yeah, how do they do this without killing all their old people? That's the real question.
And so affordable at the same time? And why aren't we doing the same thing everywhere? This is how Tokyo sells housing. But first, let's establish how cheap Tokyo actually is, because it's not a minor difference. According to Loughborough University Global City Ranking, these are the 9 most economically important cities in the world, and compared to every single one of them, Tokyo is by far the most affordable, both in terms of property prices and cost of rent. Tokyo is much cheaper than London or New York, but it's also cheaper than Shanghai and Beijing, even though average wages in both of the Chinese cities are much lower than in Tokyo. And it's cheaper than Singapore, even though Singapore has been praised for its affordable housing. In other words, compared to any other global city, Tokyo is dirt cheap. And while you might be thinking that this would be explained by Japan's population crisis, that's not actually true. While the Japanese population has slightly decreased in the past 20 years, the size of Tokyo City, which makes up about 1/3 of the entire urban area, has been going up. And in the last 2 decades, it added just as many people as London or New York. So how does Tokyo stay so cheap? Well, the answer is both simple and complex at the same time. The way Tokyo remains affordable is by simply building a lot more housing than other cities, which might not seem that revolutionary. After all, it's what politicians in basically every Western country have been promising to do for decades. But the thing is that despite these promises, most major cities are completely failing in actually doing that. And unlike them, Tokyo has been able to actually do what everyone else is just talking about, thanks to the unique way of how Japanese cities are designed.
How?
So how do they do it? Well, there are 3 things that make Japanese urban planning different from almost anywhere else on the planet. First, Japan holds a first place in 2 specific categories. It has the highest inheritance tax in the world, and it has more earthquakes than any other country. And as a result, it has a unique approach to urban planning and architecture, because houses in Japan have a higher risk of being damaged by earthquakes, and because in order to pass down a house to your kids, they would have to pay a 50% of its value in inheritance tax. Real estate in Japan is seen very differently than anywhere else. Rather than being an asset that will take a unique approach to urban planning and architecture, because houses in Japan have a higher risk of being damaged by earthquakes, and because in order to pass down a house to your kids, they would have to pay a 50% of its value in inheritance tax. Real estate in Japan is seen very differently than anywhere else. Rather than being an asset that will always appreciate in value over time and that you build to last as long as possible, in Japan, real estate is more like consumer goods. Just like you wouldn't expect a fridge to last forever, houses in Japan are not built to last, and people don't want to live in pre-owned buildings. And so most houses have a pretty short lifespan of about 30 years, after which they are usually demolished, and something else is built in their place. But now, let me take a quick pause to talk about a sponsor of this video, Masterworks. As Japan, where the stock and housing market have been flat for decades, shows really well, no investment has a guaranteed result. And that's why it makes sense for everyone to diversify
1 minute
and maybe
ad,
branch out
Jesus.
into other investments. And there's one asset class in particular that is seeing pretty good results.
Still
Fine
does.
art. The global art market
No.
is exceeding its pre-pandemic level, and 77% of high net worth collectors are optimistic about its performance. And Masterworks allows you to enter this market without spending millions. In Tokyo, only 1% of houses are older than 1951, and the housing market is in a constant process of tearing down old buildings and building new ones, which means that the housing market is much more flexible and adapts much better to the current demand. Every neighborhood is constantly changing, and if there is a now bigger demand for housing than there used to be, you can just easily tear down a few one-story houses and build something a lot bigger instead, and then maybe downsize once again if the demand goes down. But this wouldn't be really possible anywhere else, which takes us to the second factor, regulation, or actually the lack of it. In America or Europe, when a developer wants to build any kind of residential property, there are hundreds of rules that regulate everything from number of parking spaces, maximum density, height, percentage of green spaces, and much more. Complying with all of them means that building anything is really expensive, and it's almost impossible to build any kind of dense housing, meaning that free space is used in a very inefficient way. On top of that, zoning regulations usually restrict what kind of housing can be built in one area, and often only allow one specific type, for example single-family homes, which leads to the existence of massive suburbs with no services. But in Tokyo, you don't really have any of those restrictions. Japanese zoning laws encourage mixed-use zones, meaning that you can have different kinds of housing in one neighborhood, and buildings of different shapes, heights, and sizes right next to each other, something that would be never allowed in most places across America or Europe. And there's basically no regulation for how dense these neighborhoods should be, how much parking they need, or what these buildings should look like, which is why in Tokyo you have so many houses that look like this. And as a result, Japanese zoning is able to use space a lot more efficiently and build a lot of housing in relatively small areas. And finally, unlike in much of the developed world, Tokyo and the majority of cities in Japan don't really have NIMBYs, people who actively oppose any development in their local area and push for the strictest possible housing regulations. And it's not just because of the different mentality. The real reason why Japan doesn't have this phenomenon is because NIMBYism is, well, not allowed. Or to be precise, in most of the world, it's the local governments that decide what gets built and where. Because the job of these local governments is to protect the interests of local residents, they are often motivated to block any new development in their area that the locals are usually not happy about. But because that happens in every neighborhood, the end result is that you can't actually build anything anywhere. But in Japan, this is decided on a centralized national level, and regional governments and local citizens don't really get any say in that matter. In that way, the decisions are made by people who are supposed to have the bigger picture in mind, and who are tasked with providing enough housing for everyone, rather than protecting the particular interests of people in one area. And as a result, they are a lot more development friendly, and more housing gets built. And in that way, Japan effectively bypasses the NIMBY problem. Now, of course, there are downsides. With higher density, you don't get a lot of green spaces, and Tokyo has much less of them than most big cities. People have to put up with constant development, and they can't really influence what gets built in their neighborhood. But the bottom line is, Tokyo has much less of them than most big cities. People have to put up with constant development, and they can't really influence what gets built in their neighborhood. But the bottom line is that by building so much, Tokyo is one of the few major cities in the world that manages to remain affordable for everyone. And it demonstrates that housing crises are not inevitable, and that we can solve them by just building more. But then, why aren't cities all over the world taking an example from Tokyo? Well, some of the things are probably not possible to reapply anywhere else. It's unlikely that Europe would start demolishing all the historic buildings and replacing them with new development. But many methods used in Japan that would enable building more housing, thereby making it more affordable for everyone, could be very well used almost anywhere else. And so it's not that we couldn't use the methods, it's that in most of the developed world, for some reason, we don't want to. And while it's hard to say why, my guess would be that it's because our relationship to real estate is completely different. In Japan, your house is a temporary product that's probably not going to be worth much in 30 years' time. But in most of the world, your home is your most valuable asset. The difference between being lower,
this guy hits on the points. This is a DGG right here.
Middle class, your retirement policy, and the sign that you made it, that we have all been sold. That's why people who already have a property fight so hard against anything that could decrease its value, like more housing in their area, even though it's making it so much more unattainable for everyone else. And if and how that could ever change, well, who knows?
Based, okay. I think views on housing are super off, specifically what people want out of a home. Care to discuss for like 10 mins? Oh boy. Okay, hop into disagreements. Just Julius. John Favreau responds to Emma Vigland about the Wired article. Why does Awk cover politics? What do you think would happen if Factorio and GTNH players were put in charge as dictators? GTNH? Gamora teases necrophilic Hasanabi. I don't know what the fuck that means. GTNH? Greg Tech New Horizons. What the fuck is that? It sounds like a fucking Minecraft mod pack. It is a Minecraft. Oh, okay. Oh.